What's happening, Internet? IG here again today with another Linux Tidbits after some good feedback from you all. So let's give this another run through. So in Linux Tidbits this week, we're going to be talking about a couple of news topics and of course that random distribution and a random Linux YouTuber. So let's kick off the news this week with Mr. Linux himself, Linus Torvalds. Anyway, he's having an argument with one of the key developers of the Linux kernel, or specifically the developer of the systemd part of the Linux kernel. And they're having some disagreements, and so pretty much Linus Torvalds has banned this guy from working on the Linux kernel. So pretty severe disagreements, I would say. According to an article on Network World, Kai Sievers, I think that's how you say that name. Anyway, he's been branded as being irresponsible with his position of development in the Linux kernel, and he's been apparently creating more bugs in his own code that everybody else has to fix. And of course, Mr. Linus Torvalds is not happy with this at all, and so of course he rather emotionally ranted about that and banned him from working on the Linux kernel. Now, obviously this is pretty typical Torvalds style at this point, as we do know that he is prone to the odd outburst here and there about various things that make him angry. So that's really all I need to say about that at this point. If you want any more information about anything that I'm talking about today, links will be in the description box below, so check those out if you want more information. I'm just skimming stuff over here. Second up, we have even more announcements of Steam games, including the next Civilisation game from Sid Meier, or however you say that name. These are so many names I don't know how to pronounce. And the next iteration of the game is more than likely going to support Linux, according to the game's developers. It's going to be launching for Mac, Windows, and Linux for $49.99 this coming fall in the Northern Hemisphere. Obviously that means spring in the Southern Hemisphere. So basically the biggest twist to this game is that players will now be able to expand to another planet rather than being just stuck on the one planet. So that should be interesting. And once again, bringing even more gaming success to the Linux platform. Wasteland II is another game that reported an update this week and is also going to be planning on supporting Linux in the near future. Now, Wasteland 2 is an RPG-based game, obviously that's based on the original game, but apparently with this update it's going to be bringing a whole bunch of more maps, and it's also going to be having a campaign that runs about 50 hours, so that's pretty decent length for a campaign. Anyway, more details in the article in the link in the description box. And moving right along to the big story this week, Cinnamon 2.2 is out and it's ready for use. Now, Cinnamon, of course, being very closely developed with the Linux Mint team, it will obviously be supported on Linux Mint 11 and also an update pack coming to the Linux Mint Debian edition, but they've done a bunch of new changes on the user space and also on the back end, making it an even more awesome and standalone desktop environment, which is pretty good. Basically, Cinnamon 2.2 overhauls a lot of the settings dialogues that you see in system settings. So a lot of the things like keyboard management, power management, a lot of those things have undergone work to make them function better with the way Cinnamon works, and also to make them look better. Cinnamon 2.2 also brings support for the really high resolution displays, so high pixel density displays, and a bunch of other bug fixes and other awesome little tidbits. I like saying that word on this show, I need to find another one. And finally, let's talk about the Linux kernel again. So we've come full circle back around to Linux kernel 3.15, which is apparently going to have better support for faster suspend and resume. Now, I know this has been a problem for me in the past, and I guess it depends on what kind of motherboard and hardware you're running as to how quickly your system resumes from sleep. But apparently they're going to be working in a new simpler system of sleep and resume into the Linux kernel so that your desktop or laptop is going to sleep and resume very, very quickly. They've got some tests, some numbers and some data down in the article in the description box, so if you want to actually see facts, then go there, don't come looking here. Anyway, they did some tests on some specific hardware and they saw some marked increases, sometimes up to 12 times as fast, so that's pretty incredible. Now, with all the news out of the way, let's talk about the random Linux distro of the week, and that will be KWeezy. KWeezy is a KDE Plasma desktop on top of Debian 7 point something. So it is going to be a very stable distribution, and it's great for production, for editing, for anything where you need stability as a fundamental of your system. You don't want it shaking around and changing every so often. Now, what do I like about this distribution? Well, the fact that it's not just vanilla KDE. They've kind of tweaked it out a bit. They've made things easier. They've got a lot of custom tools there to help you with things like drivers, changing screen resolutions, etc. And they also make it easy on you as far as having plenty of pre-installed software and also all of the codecs and things like that you're going to need out of the box for things like Bluetooth or sound sharing or all of that stuff that can be a little bit tricky to sometimes set up on a vanilla Debian system. So it's been putzing along for a while and it's getting along as far as release numbers are concerned. So if you are looking for a stable KDE distribution that is based on obviously a relatively stable Debian base, then I definitely recommend you check out KWheezy. Don't know what they're going to do when the next version of Debian comes around, but I guess they'll be up for a name change. Now let's talk about the random Linux YouTuber of the day. And today I'm going to be shouting out to a YouTuber known as Matthew Moore. And I'm sure most of you know who Matthew Moore is, but just in case you don't, he's got a bunch of Linux tutorials. He does quite a vast range of Linux related topics and videos. And he also does have his own spin of Manjaro, much like Spatry's Cup of Linux, which we talked about last week in the random distribution pick. So if you're looking for a slightly different take on Manjaro to the Spatry Cup of Linux edition of Manjaro, then definitely check out the Matthew Moore respin. And while you're at it, check out his channel if you haven't already. Chances are you probably have come across him in the past, because he does have quite a few videos on quite a few different topics. He's quite prolific. So anyway, I'm sure good times are to be had by all if you go and check out that channel. So definitely pop over and say hello. Well, that'll be all from me this week in Linux Tidbits. I hope you enjoyed the show. Definitely leave a like and comment down below if this video helped you out, and subscribe if you like this content on a regular basis. I will see you all again in the very near future. And if you'd like to follow me on what I do in the interwebs, or just to make it easy to get this content to you, then you can follow me on Google+, Twitter, or Facebook. Thank you all for watching, and I will catch you next time. Peace out, ladies and gentlemen.